There is a feeling that almost all of us experienced as children, even if it's hard to explain. Noticing that something wasn't right, seeing concern in the adults, feeling fear, and still carrying on as if nothing was wrong, taking refuge in small things. My Neighbor Totoro understands that feeling better than many supposedly deeper films. The first time I tried to watch My Neighbor Totoro, I turned it off after about 20 minutes or so. It seemed like a very childish film to me, and I ended up dropping it. Many years later, that is, a few weeks ago more or less, I wanted to give it another chance. And to my surprise, the film was much deeper than I had imagined. Because yes, even though My Neighbor Totoro is a comfort film for many, and childish in certain aspects, it manages to convey a very profound message. Satsuki, Mei, and their father move to a new house. But unlike what we see in Spirited Away, which begins in a similar way, in a car on the way to their new home, we see Chihiro as more melancholic. However, in this film, we see how the girls have greater energy and optimism. But that does not mean that this change in the lives of the two girls is not something frightening, or that it does not cause at least a little anxiety. It simply means that the girls handle it differently. The scene where the girls arrive at the house and they begin to play with the pillar that was broken. This scene explains a bit of what I was saying about how the girls regulate their emotions. That pillar symbolizes the real instability the family is going through, and the fact that the girls play with the structure, laughing as if it were nothing, as if it were not dangerous, lets us understand that this is how they regulate adversity, fear, and anxiety. Another scene that proves this is when their father tells them that they should laugh very loudly, because then what scares them would go away. So once you understand this, you no longer see the girls' happiness and optimism with the same eyes. Now you see that defense mechanism, and then the film no longer feels so childish. It starts to feel real. Because we have to keep in mind that the story is centered on the perspective of the two girls. Their father is there, but he is not the focus of the film. So the fact that the film is childish has a meaning, a reason, because we are seeing childhood. We see how they play, explore the house, how Mei repeats everything her sister does. These scenes are key to conveying the girls' perspective. And then we see the mother's situation when the girls go to visit her in the hospital. The mother was absent because she was quite ill, so she could not be at home. At that moment, it begins to create a small uncertainty in the viewers. And then we understand that that uncertainty is in the girls as well, that even if it is not said or the mother is not mentioned, we know that this concern is always present in the background, behind the laughter. And it is not only that they try to hide that fear behind laughter, but they are also children. Many times they do not understand danger in the same way adults do, but that does not mean they do not feel it. That is why when Mei is playing and follows the trail of acorns, she encounters Totoro. My reading is precisely that. Even though it seems like a calm scene where Mei does not appear worried about anything specific, Totoro appears because, even though Mei's fear is not shown explicitly, that uncertainty about her mother is always present. I am not so interested in deciding whether Totoro literally exists within the story. What matters to me is that, whether real or imagined, he fulfills a very real emotional function, that of refuge, comfort, and support in the face of a reality that is too heavy for two girls. Because that refuge can be a hobby, it can be a goal, it can be a person, or in this case, a supernatural being that brings peace, comfort, and above all, helps us carry the weight of our problems. Because when you do not have that refuge, it is very easy to fall into despair. It is easy to feel that you are not enough, or that the situation is too much for you. For example, for me it is easier to deal with my problems when I work on the channel. My Totoro would be my goal, but if that is not taken care of, it can become a form of escapism, but that is a topic for another video. The thing is, creating this kind of analysis is my refuge, my way of processing what I feel. If you like that I analyze cinema from this more human or even psychological perspective, consider subscribing. That would support me a lot. But my Totoro is also my friends, being able to tell them my problems even though the vast majority of the time they are not capable of solving them. But the fact of having that refuge, of being able to talk and be listened to, of being able to see another perspective on my problems, simply to vent, makes the weight of my problems instantly much lighter. So if we take this into account, Totoro is real because it symbolizes that which keeps you moving forward when there is adversity, and that is why it is so important that we all have a Totoro in our lives. Totoro represents a type of comfort that does not come from solving your problem, but from helping you endure it. Totoro does not fix the mother's illness nor eliminate the uncertainty. What he does is accompany. His presence conveys calm, protection. We can see this more clearly in the famous bus stop scene when the girls are waiting for their father. Their father did not arrive at the usual time, so uncertainty begins, and then Totoro appears and simply stands by their side without doing anything. He only accompanies them. Even when Satsuki gives him the umbrella, Totoro jumps and drops begin to fall from the tree. I have seen people trying to give an explanation, saying that the rain tickled him or something like that. But for me, this is just a way of making that situation, standing there in the middle of the rain, something more pleasant and fun. When he notices how the drops hit the umbrella, he begins to enjoy it almost like a child discovering a new toy. He is not thinking, "I'm going to get wet," or "how annoying this rain is," as an adult would. He is completely present in the experience. It is a very childlike but powerful way of seeing things, being able to find pleasure in something small that we normally ignore. And before leaving, Totoro gives them a little bag full of acorns, and the girls plant those seeds hoping that they will grow, but nothing happens. Until one night they see Totoro doing a kind of dance to make the seeds grow, and suddenly, it turns into a giant tree. The tree scene is not only about nature, it can also be seen as an image of Mei and Satsuki's own inner growth. They are going through a stage in which, without wanting to, they are changing. They are feeling fear, responsibility, uncertainty, and all of that forces them to mature a little. As with the rain scene, here, the magic does not solve reality. The mother is still sick, the problem still exists. But during that night, the girls can experience something pure and full of energy. The tree functions as a kind of explosion of life that gives them some comfort. When they climb onto Totoro and fly, it reinforces that idea of Totoro being that refuge. Even flying very high, holding on only with their hands, although it may be dangerous, they feel safe because they are with Totoro. The next day, the immense tree is not there, but the seeds have sprouted. The important thing is that the experience was real for them, and it left something in the world. Even if the gigantic tree does not remain, there is still a sign of growth. The tree represents life growing even when there is fear all around. Later, we see how they are harvesting the crops, and Nanny tells them that her vegetables would heal their mother faster. And Mei says that she is going to give the corn to her mother, since for Mei, that corn really can heal her mother. Children believe what adults tell them, that corn represents hope. Mei wants to bring her mother something that, from her child's logic, can help her get better. It is, if I bring her this, maybe she will get better. But Satsuki receives the telegram saying that her mother's visit had been postponed, and that is when the film changes tone. The telegram suddenly activates the fear that was already buried in the family, because that telegram brings the real possibility of loss. Satsuki can no longer fully sustain her role as the strong older sister. During a good part of the film, she has been the one who helps, organizes, takes care of Mei, and maintains a certain composure. But the telegram touches exactly the wound she had been trying to contain, the real fear that her mother may truly get worse and perhaps die. And then she goes straight to call her father, trying to do what many children do when everything is chaos. Immediately seek the adult figure who still seems capable of fixing something. Satsuki does not call just to inform her father. She calls because she can no longer handle the situation alone. It is the moment when she goes from, "I am being strong," to, "I need someone bigger than me." That makes it clear that no matter how responsible she may seem, she is still a child. When Mei sees her sister crying because she believes their mother could die, Mei's reaction is to go and bring her that corn which, as we said, symbolized hope for her. Because Satsuki, for Mei, is not just her older sister. She is also a kind of figure of stability. She is the one who knows more, the one who usually stays calm. So when Mei sees her crying, what she understands is not simply that Satsuki is sad. It is that if even Satsuki has broken down, then something really bad is happening. Seeing someone who seems strong cry can be more shocking than any explanation. When she decides to go alone to the hospital with the corn, Mei is not being irrational in the way an adult would see it. but she is being completely coherent with her age, her fear, and her love. Mei leaves because she wants to do something useful, because her impulse is born from love, but also from total helplessness. Here, the corn almost becomes the emotional summary of Mei. Because the corn cannot cure her mother, we know that. Satsuki in some way knows it too, but for Mei, that corn is all of her childlike wish for things to be okay again. That makes the scene painful even before she gets lost, because we see a little girl carrying a hope far too fragile for a situation far too big. With the telegram, you can also clearly see how each sister expresses love and fear differently. Satsuki breaks down crying because she can no longer hold it in. Mei throws herself into action. Both are suffering the same thing, they just translate it in different ways. Before moving on to the most intense part of the film, leave me a comment. What is your Totoro? What is that thing that gives you peace when everything is going wrong? I'm reading you below. Anyway, on the way to the hospital, Mei gets lost. Here, the film enters its most distressing part. Up until now, the film's anxiety had been tied mainly to the mother, an absence, an illness, a worry that remained in the air. But when Mei disappears, it is no longer just the fear that something bad might happen at the hospital. Now there is another much more immediate danger, the possibility of losing Mei as well. Satsuki is not only frightened, she is also carrying an overwhelming sense of guilt, even though she does not say it explicitly. Because, from her position as the older sister, she feels that she should have taken better care of Mei. And that hurts even more because she was already broken inside by the telegram, by the fear of losing her mother. It is as if the film places her in front of an absolute limit. First, she cannot protect her mother from getting worse, and then she cannot protect Mei from disappearing either. And at that moment, Satsuki becomes a child completely overwhelmed by what is happening. When they find the sandal in the pond, the film suddenly touches on an almost unbearable image, the possibility that Mei has died. And what is most powerful is that the terror here is born from something minimal, a sandal. Because when you love someone, any clue can turn into a possible catastrophe, even if it is only imagined. When Satsuki, desperate, runs to look for Totoro, it is the moment when a child, on the verge of collapse, turns to her last emotional refuge. The neighbors search, the adults move around, but she needs emotional help, a strength that allows her not to completely fall apart. When Totoro calls the cat bus, it shows that even at the darkest point, a light can still appear. This part was the most confusing for me. The fact that Totoro had helped in an active way for the first time felt a bit like cheating. But after thinking about it a lot, I think it can be understood that Totoro stops being only a place of comfort and becomes the emotional force that allows Satsuki to move forward and face the crisis. Totoro helps the girls find each other again, not remain lost in fear. It seems that Totoro resolves the ending, but in reality, he does not resolve the central conflict of the film. Although within the story, Totoro acts for real, symbolically, he functions as an emotional repair. What does Totoro really do at that moment? He listens to Satsuki's pain, offers her a way to reach Mei, and helps her confirm that her mother is still there. He is almost the representation of how, when you break down and finally ask for help, it makes the burden of your problems feel lighter. Like what I was saying before about telling my friends about my problems. In the end, I think My Neighbor Totoro is not only about childhood, but about something we continue to carry even into adulthood, the need to find refuge. Because it does not promise us that everything will turn out perfectly. It only reminds us that, sometimes, the only thing we need to keep from completely breaking apart is to feel that we are not alone with what hurts us. I have a video analyzing the character of Sophie and another about Howl from Howl's Moving Castle, and comment below which other movie I should analyze. I really appreciate you subscribing. See you in the next video.